comes through the laptop. So it picks up you speaking.
Oh, it picks up me speaking.
Yeah.
Oh, Polly. Okay, good morning, Holly. Okay, we'll get started. We apologise for the delay there. So obviously this webinar is being recorded, so we'll post it for everybody that's missed it. Apologise for starting a little bit late this morning. So today, what I wanted to do was we wanted to drill into some specific uses of Journey Managers that we've been doing recently to help ourselves really. And wanted to really sort of drill into two aspects of Journey Manager that people hadn't necessarily been using it for in the past, that I personally and our marketing team here find massively useful. And the first thing that I want to look at is audience segmentation. And the second thing that I want to look at is improving email deliverability performance through Journey Manager. Right, so, okay, let's have a quick look. So we're going to do everything from today within the Journey Manager tab, right here. And the first thing, as I said before, that I want to focus on is the ability to segment audiences through the Journey Manager. So let's go ahead and do this. When we open and we create a new journey, we get presented with this Create New Journey dialog box. Now, this is quite an important feature. So what this does is it firstly enables us to rename the journey, obviously. So I'm going to call this I'm going to call this price list segment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a segment of everybody that has been to our website and looked at our price list page. For example, obviously the context can be anything, but on this one we'll keep it simple. Now, the enrollment settings. Now, what the enrollment settings do is they determine how often a user can run through this journey. Sorry, a user, I mean a contact. So the first and default position is we can add the contacts to the journey only the first time they meet the start audience filter or filter requirements. Now, what that means is I am only going to run through this journey ever once. Whilst that option is there, doesn't matter how many times in the future I meet this condition, it is just for me to go through it once. Now, if I decided that actually, no, this is a perpetual journey, this is going to be always looking at data, I'm going to need it to reconsider every contact within a particular demographic or within a particular filter set regularly, I will specify a time and date that I want, a frequency that I want people to be able to trigger through this. Now, for example, so they will trigger each time, so let's have a look, read the words, I apologize. Add contacts to the journey every time they meet the start audience filter requirements, but not if they have already been added in the last X days, X so many hours. So what that means is, let's assume that I visit the price list page today 5 times. Well, I'm only going to, and I set this to be, I can go through this journey every day, 1 day, 6 hours, for argument's sake. If I today visit the price list page 6 times and I have been triggered into this journey, it will not trigger me again for 1 day and 6 hours time. So assuming I meet the conditions in 1 day, 6 hours time, again, I will go through it again. If I don't, the fact that I've been there 6 times, the price list page today 6 times, is academic. It doesn't matter. So in this instance, I'm going to run a segmentation piece, which means that I'm going to be using this feature to add contacts regularly. Now, I also need to bear in mind how I'm going to use the journey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this, I'm going to say, right, I'm going to let people run through this journey every 30 days. I'll explain a little bit more in a second about why I've chosen that. Again, a little tip for me, I always then minimize that bar, just makes the screen a little bit bigger. So, as I said to you before, my objective now is I want to find people that have visited the price list page. So I start with a start audience, drag the start audience on, and I can rename the start audience. Now, personally, I very rarely rename the start audience. It's always just the start audience, and that's fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look for the people that I want to trigger into this journey. So the start audience essentially in some ways is classed as the trigger. The trigger is the point in which people are picked from the masses and run through this journey. So in my instance, I want to find people that have been to the price list page. So I'm going to use this activities web URL function. Now, if let's say it was people that were referred from Facebook or had been in a particular Google ad campaign, I could put, right, the referrer must contain Google and the web activity URL contains the UTM references from the ad campaign. Now, so the UTM references, if you need help with that, you can ask the team. But basically, when you're paid search agency or you guys use any paid for advert, you should use UTM campaigns and the UTM the UTM tags. And those UTM tags are appended to the link in your advert. And when they arrive at the website, this system can then pick it up and break it apart. So if you need help on that, ask your account manager about how to disseminate what's in a UTM tag. But let's go back to our simple case, and that is the price list. So now I've got a choice when I'm doing anything with my URL activity search. So I can either use the contains, the equals, not equal, begins with, doesn't contain, is empty, is not empty, wildcard. Right, so personally, I want you to remember, this is a computer, all right? And computers do exactly what you tell them to do. So sometimes what appears to be absolute logic to me isn't to a computer. And where, for example, I want to find anybody that's been to the pricing page, the easiest thing for me to do is use this contains object and simply type price list. Now I know that's the case because on our website, pricing page, I believe the URL is price list. Bear with me, here we go, pricing. So I'm looking for anything that contains the word pricing. I could put the whole URL in if I wished, but the problem with that is, if I do that, I could do that and use the contains, but if I did that and used the equal, then if anybody had come to that page from an advert and there was a query string appended to the end of there, the system doesn't recognize it. It doesn't, because it has to exactly equal that. So what I'm going to do is I could use the begins with or the contains, but I'm going to stick with my contains. And I usually take that off. Okay, now I may wish to add other conditions to this and say, okay, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to add people that are customers. So for example, what we do is we have a marketing list, and we have a marketing list where everybody that is a user of our platform is registered on our platform, and we have an intercom list. So intercom users. So that will now say, right, it will find me everybody that's been to the website, but to view the pricing page, but not our customers, because that's not what we're here for. So I can quickly hit this refresh function here, and it'll tell me, look, I've got 711 people from our 256,000 contacts that meet that criteria. Perfect. So that's where I'll start from. So I'll save that. Obviously, if you're having trouble with building these start audience conditions, then speak to your account manager, and what your account manager can do is save a query in here for you. And you can just call that query, and you can use this set selected, and it will just put whatever your account manager saved for you right there. So it's all about saving you a little bit of time. So I'm going to save that now. So there's my start audience condition locked in position, and that's ready to go. Now, let's imagine I was being particularly fancy here, and I wanted to do some split testing. And I wanted to send one group of people, I wanted to send 50% of the people that I've identified of my 711 current people. I want to identify 50% of them, and I want them to go into a segment A, and one's called a segment B. So what I do is I just come in here and I enter a split value, a split percentage. So 50-50 equals 100%, we're good to go. If I added another split and I wanted 3 splits, I'd have to just knock that down to say 25%, and that one's at 25%, and then click save. and you see it's given me 3 output channels. Now I don't want to do that. I'll keep life simple and I will just put it at 50. Brilliant. Click save and it's got rid of it. So the first thing I do is I drag and I connect this up to the split object. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this action function. Now the action function is where I can simply add people to a segment. Now don't worry if we don't already have the segment built, because I can just build a new one here. I simply start typing, but let me type in price list segments. Oops, apologize. P-R-I-C list segment 1. Okay, so you see that doesn't exist. So what the system's done is it's given me the option to create it here. So if I click this and then click save, it's created the segment in my behalf, on my behalf. So if I come to the Your Data page really quickly, we will see price list segment 1 has been created as a segment for us. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to get this other 50%. I need to get them into price list segment 2. So this way I could just drag and drop another, or I could just duplicate this, change this to be price list segment. And you see how segment 1's already there? I don't want that one, obviously. Segment 2. There we go. And I'll create price list segment 2. Superb. Drag that down here. Connect them up. Off we go. Now what's really interesting in this is how we see how people's brains work. Because personally, I always work left to right. But there's no rules. You can go up and down. You can do right to left. It really doesn't matter. I like to see things traveling across the time. But it's entirely up to you. So I'm not going to send an email on this particular journey. So all that's going to happen is I'm going to segment my data. Now, in theory, I've done my job. Superb. And that's a really, really simple data maintenance journey. Okay? Very, very easy. And it's going to continually find people to put into those segments. That's great. Now then, what if actually I want to do something a little bit more sophisticated and I want to keep those segments alive? And by which, what I mean is, I actually only want to add you to the segment whilst you have an active lead score. So for example, these are people that are visiting the price list, and actually I don't want them in there forever, because you know what, somebody might become a customer, or somebody might you know what, they might I don't know, never look at our website again, and it's 3 years later and I've still got people in there from when I added them 3 years ago. So this is where I need to get a bit more complicated, or a bit more interesting. I've got the choice here. I can either split this next stage into a new journey, in which case I'd come into my journey manager and I could duplicate that journey and start again, or just start with a new journey. It's up to you. But use this duplicate function to be able to actually take what you've done and do it again really quickly, because it duplicates the whole thing. I'll show you that very quickly in just a moment. So I'm going to stay within this journey, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these lines. Okay. And sometimes you find you run out of space in the canvas. But if what you do, you just send an object just off the side, you see, it expands the canvas size. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a condition in there. So I'm going to add you in here, which is wonderful. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a decision. And let's say what I'm going to do is I'm going to delay that decision. And I'm going to delay that decision for 30 days, 31 days. Now, understand how these delays work. And I'll just quickly set it up and then I'll talk about what I've done. Okay. So, we have delay objects, and I've covered this on previous webinars. So a delay object obviously is a simple form of a delay, where we can say delay for 3 days, or delay for 30 days, or do not trigger these contacts until a fixed date in the future, or fixed date and time, or do not allow them to run through the journey unless it's a Monday to Friday between the hours of, 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Something like that. And I can build intervals, and I might say, oh, actually, but on Saturdays we're open in the morning, so I don't mind journeys triggering between 8 a.m. and lunchtime. So we'll keep that open. So the system will now. So that's a delay. Now understand what a delay object here versus a delay in here does. So this is a heart stop. This will stop everything, every contact. They will stop and they will wait until that condition is met. Now, however, conversely, what this delay does is it delays for let's say a delay on a decision is more of a decision time out. Okay, so what I mean by that is, let's imagine I send you an email and I want to look for people that open that email. Open email stage name. There is none in here, so I can't do that. But now, if you open the email immediately, I want you to trigger to the yes branch immediately, so I can do something else with you. But if you don't open the email, well, after 31 days, we will automatically push you to the no branch. So the delay option here is more of a timeout. So they can do it anytime within the next 30 days. If they haven't done it within 30 days, we're going to assume they're not going to do it, and we won't allow them to go any further. So that's the difference. It allows me to have almost like a conversation. So actually, another good example would be conversation on SMS. So if I'm sending you an SMS message, I'm saying reply yes if you would like a free gift voucher. And if I reply yes immediately, I need you to go straight to the yes branch where I can say, okay, here's your voucher. But if you reply 15 days later, let's say, I still need you to go to the yes branch 15 days later. But after 30 days, we want to divert everybody to the no branch because they didn't meet the criteria. Fine. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use lead score. And I'm going to say, look, actually, I'm going to delay this decision for 31 days. And I'm going to check your lead score is greater than 1. So the reason why 31 days, may even wish to do 40 days, because lead scores last for 30 days, remember. So I may have entered into this, I may have reached the price list by, entered in this journey, and I will have had a lead score. May have been 1, 2, or it may have been 500, who knows. But in order for me to remain active, I'm saying you must still, on some level, be engaging with us. And I'll accept anybody with a lead score greater than 1 because it means they've done something within the last 30 days. So, the 40 days in this instance. So there we go. Now, if you did have a lead score, great. Now I'm going to put both of these onto here. If you did have a lead score, I am going to put you back into that segment, which doesn't really mean anything. It essentially is a loop. But if you don't, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove you from either segment. Now, because the system doesn't know which segment you are in, I'm going to just do this quite simply. I'm going to use the remove from segment, and I'm going to say price segment 1, save, and duplicate that, price segment 2. Oh dear. Here we go. So the no branch will come into here. And we'll put those two together and we'll do that. Okay, so what just happened here? Actually, do you know what? I wouldn't do that. I would do that. And I'll show you why. Nope, didn't mean to do that. There we go. Back in. Okay, so let's explain what I just did there. So I said let's put everybody in here. Then if the lead score is greater than 1, end the journey. Now there's a problem there, isn't there? There's a problem because what that means is your lead score will be instantly triggered to the yes branch. So I need to refactor this, don't I? But the no branch, which says after 40 days, if the lead score is not greater than 1, send them to here where we remove them from segment 1 and remove them from segment 2. So even though they've come in on 2 channels, we flatten them to come out on one channel. So in which case we have to put these two in line, because at this point it doesn't know which segment you were in, so we're just going to remove you from both just to make sure. Now I could, if I'd have wanted to, put another decision here which said, are they in price list segment 1? Yes, okay, remove them from price list segment 1. If they're not, they must be in price list segment 2, therefore remove them from price list segment 2. But in the instance of this, it really makes no difference. Just allow them to remove from both. The system won't mind if they're not in that segment to begin with, so that's fine. And we end the journey there. So I said to you, right, okay, I've got a problem with this yes branch now, haven't I? Because the yes branch really is, I'm going to meet that yes criteria that I have a lead score greater than 1 within that 40 days. So think about that logic of the delayed timeout. So I'm going to come into here. I'm going to have a lead score because I've just been to the website, I've just visited the price list page. I'm going to get passed onto this object, whichever channel I come in, get passed onto this object, and it's going to say, have you got a lead score greater than 1? And it'll say, yes, you do. And then it'll immediately end the journey for me. Right, okay, that's okay, but it's not much use. So let's actually go back to this. Let's switch this to an instant decision. Let's take these off. And let's use the delay. And we'll delay it for 40 days. So in this instance, the delay object is more appropriate than the delay object in here. And we're running an instant decision. So the decision is made at the point in which the contact passes through, through this stage of the journey. Okay, so look, that's a really, really helpful thing. So my view is that a marketeer should spend no time segmenting data in order to execute campaigns. I've shown you how to build 2 split tests. In fact, you know what? I'd do one thing extra. I would do one thing further. And I would say, that's my split segment 1, that's my split segment 2. Do you know what? I want a segment where everybody is. So I'll actually just, I'll reconnect that up. And I will just disconnect that, and I will create one further segment, which is price list segment. Okay, so it really doesn't matter how many segments you've got. You can have as many as you wish. So what I want to do is I now want to go into there, oops, missed, into there, and then into there. Now, in order to comply with this journey, I now need to put one further step in here, which is to remove you from the price list master segment. I'll explain what I've done here. Okay. It's funny how your thinking evolves as you start to use this platform. Once you understand what you've got to do, once you understand what the objects do, and you start to think logically about what you're actually trying to achieve, your approach starts to evolve. So, you know, as we're talking about this, things are improving and things are getting better. And that's really what we add, is, you know, in terms of value. So let's have a look at this. Now, I'm taking my start audience, and my start audience is quite a simple one. It's just people that meet our condition. And in our instance, it is people that have visited the pricing page. I might wish to put an extra condition in there. Web activity date relative is today. So it's only people that have visited the price list page today, which there won't be anybody. I shouldn't. Oh, it's 2. And they can't be our customers. I may wish to say, actually, you know what? I'm prepared to go a little bit further than that. I'm saying anybody within the last 30 days that's looked at the price list. It's up to you. But I'm going to stick with this. I'm then going to split the audience, so I can do a bit of split testing. And split testing for me is you know, something actually we're writing a piece of content about, and I don't want to spoil the surprise on that. So we'll send a piece of content out to all our customers anyway about split testing. So I'm going to split. I'm going to send 50% of the traffic here, 50% of the traffic there, segment 1, segment 2. But then just to make sure I've got everybody in a single segment, so for reporting purposes, I'll also put them in the master segment. I'll then delay for 40 days. I'm going to give it enough time for the lead score to diminish. I'm going to make a decision. Is the lead score greater than 1? If it is, I'm going to end there, which will leave the person within the segment. If it isn't, I'm going to remove them from price list segment 1, price list segment 2, and the master segment. Now, what about those people who meet the yes criteria here, but don't meet the yes criteria later on? So here's what happens to those guys. I come back to here. I will allow everybody to run through this journey every 7 days. I tell you what we do. I know what we do. We go like this. We duplicate that decision. We put it up front. And we say this. All this is very clever. Okay, wow, there we go. This is really good. Okay, so now what we've done, we've added an extra dimension. This is getting really exciting. So what we've done now is we've said, okay, what if I'm in these segments and after 40 days, I've still got a lead score. But what about after 90 days? I still need to remove me, right? Well, let's remember the journey settings on here state I can run through this journey every 30 days, assuming I'm not currently in it. So what that means is, if I'm in this journey right now and I trigger it again, I can't run through it again. I can only be in it once. So that's where journeys, that's another thing you need to remember about journeys. It's about using the various different parameters of a journey. So I can only be in this journey once. I can be in many other journeys elsewhere. So sometimes this is where I say, okay, I need to split this journey into 2 journeys. And what that's going to do is it's going to work together because they can be in both at any one time. And it's about understanding when to do that. And really, this is what the account management team are here to help you with. If there is a question and you wonder, should I do that in 1 journey or 2 journeys? Ask the question and they'll give you the best advice. Okay, so you can come into this every 30 days if you're not going to be in it, but remember that's 40-day delay. So every 40 days, you're going to be released back into here. And the first thing the system's going to do is it's going to say, yeah, okay, so you meet the criteria, do you? Brilliant. Well, do you have a lead score? If the answer is yes, it'll send you down this route and it'll make sure that you're in this segment, which is fine. But if the answer is no, it'll just pass you straight through to here and remove you automatically. So I've created this infinite loop now that keeps this data segment, these 3 pots of data, permanently in sync. Permanently in sync. So forever and a day, I never need to worry about this particular journey again. Now, the beautiful thing about these journeys is the fact that I've just built that. And that's my price list segment. But look, you know what? I've got loads of segments. So I'm going to duplicate it and I'm going to do it for my demo bookings segment. Bookings segment. Okay, and I'm going to duplicate that journey. And I'm going to use that exact same methodology that I've created to deliver the same thing, but I'm going to change the names of the lists. I'm going to change the make decisions. I'm going to change the filter, the start audience condition, and it's going to be all about people who have booked demos. Now, here's the interesting thing. You noticed I duplicated this journey. So I'm now going to have, even though this is a valid journey, the journey works, I've just literally copied it from somewhere that works. But yet I've got validation errors. And these validation errors are saying this journey must be confirmed. The component has been duplicated from another journey and must be confirmed. What it's saying there is that you must open this journey, this stage, look at the actual query, confirm and save. And what this does is it forces you to look at the parameters before saving it, because what I don't want you to do is have 2 identical journeys running doing exactly the same job. Imagine that. You get 2 emails every time you did something. So this is forcing you to say, confirm I'm happy with that audience condition, confirm I'm happy with that segment, confirm I'm happy with this, so on and so forth. So it forces me. Now, if I've done that and I've been through it and I've got loads of things like these splits, I don't need to log in and confirm a split. That's just ridiculous. So I can confirm all components in one go, but realize that that's risky. Okay, so you have to say, I understand what I'm doing here, and I understand that by doing it, the journey may be a duplicate. So now the journey is now valid. That's great. As a bit of housekeeping, I always like to see. As a bit of housekeeping, let me just refresh. One more time. As a bit of a housekeeping, I like to understand and see that people are renaming these decisions. Make first decision on lead score. Okay, because it just helps a little bit later down the line when we've got correctly named objects to try to understand what's going on. So rename the objects. At any one of these objects, you can just hit that pen and it can tell you what you want to do. Okay, so that's the first thing. This was data segmentation, and it's I'm really interested about this. That's fine, Holly. Okay, the next thing that I want to talk about really quickly is the email deliverability. So I'm going to build a new role, a new journey, and I'm going to build a journey that's all about delivering emails more efficiently. Email campaign. So rather than using my sort of traditional approach, and by the way, on there you'll notice I used the add contacts the first time. So this is simply because I'm going to just send an email campaign to these people. Now, the normal approach to this would be to use the start audience and say marketing list is, and then you'd select a segment. Let's take that price list segment we've just been working with. Price list segment 1. Or, I know, price list list master segment. We'll take that master segment. Okay. So there's my price list. That's great. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to send them this email. So I'm going to send them that email. It's fine. Give it a subject line. Super. Specify a marketing. Specify a subject, sub-preference. Save. Now, in theory, if I was to use a normal email platform or any other platform, that's what I'd do. So as soon as you're in that list, it'll send you this email, or it will send you this email. Only people that I want to get this email will get this email, but it can either be on forever, so automatically people get it, or it's something that only this group of people get. But that's fine. That's easy. But what I find is, and this is what I want you guys to try. I want you to try to see if you can improve your email deliverability by doing this. I'm going to make a decision. And that decision is your lead score, using the instant decision, by the way, is your lead score greater or equal to 20? Okay. So we're going to pull people into here and go greater or equal to 20. And if their lead score is greater or equal to 20, I am going to impose no delivery restrictions. So I'm just going to send the email straight out to you as fast as we can. But now, here's the other thing. What if your lead score is greater or equal to 1? Well, that's where it gets a bit more tricky. So these are people that may not be engaging, and I'll explain why I'm doing this in just a second. So what I'm going to do, these people aren't necessarily engaged, but they are slightly engaged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a max throttle value of 2,500 between all days of the week except Saturday and Sunday, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. And I'm going to delay it for 1 hour. Oops, not 1 day. Don't do that. Delay it for 1 hour. So here's what's going to happen now. To improve my deliverability, what I want to do and what mail servers are doing now, incoming mail servers are doing now, is they're looking at how engaged my customers are. And they're looking to see at the open rates in which I'm receiving. So what I've done is I've prioritized my engaged traffic and I've pushed it out as quickly as possible. That's given me a really, really nice ride through the mail servers. So all of a sudden people are opening, clicking, giving me loads of feedback, which is wonderful. The mail servers then look at that and say, oh, okay, this is pretty good. Then what I've done is I've then said, look, okay, let's take the next category of engagedness and let's give them an hour. So let's give that an hour to bed in. Maybe 30 minutes is fine. It's up to you. It just depends on your numbers in the data set. Remember, the system per account can deliver I think it's 750,000 emails per hour without a blink. It's whether that is per account, by the way, whether that is appropriate for your mailing profile or your customer base is a different matter. So give it an hour. The next batch goes out. But then what we do is we say clone that one more time. So is less than 1. Okay. So now these are the last batch. These are the ones that were going to cause us trouble. These are the ones that I'm worried about. So let's just do this. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to delay this for one further hour, and I'm going to open the send window up just like with Saturdays and Sundays, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. till whatever p.m. And I've calculated that I'd like to send out, I don't know, 1,000 an hour. Now, these numbers are entirely up to you. And actually, do you know what? I don't even need that decision. I've just realized that's a really stupid thing to do. I don't need the decision because everybody else is going to be less than 1. So I don't need that. I just connect that straight up. So that would make more sense. I was making a decision to find people less than 1, but by virtue of the fact that they're not more than 1, they must be less than 1. So I just drop that object onto there, connect that onto the email, and off we go. So you can see here what I've done is, even though that may look really complicated, and actually behind the scenes, what you're doing is you're giving yourself a massive leg up, humongous leg up, because the system's then just helping you. You're intelligently guiding it. The system is extremely powerful in terms of how it manages the relationships on a technical level with the ESPs. So when we send out an email, we think that that's it, job's done. But actually, our MTAs, as they're called, mail transfer agents, are taking that mail, they're shaking hands with Microsoft, they're shaking hands with Google, and saying, hey guys, I've got some emails for you. Google's then saying, hey, okay, no problem, I know you, that's cool, put it in. But then what it's doing is it's saying, well, you know what, obviously what I've got to do is I've got to do my due diligence on this email, and I've got to send it a few out and see how it goes. And we say, fine, no problem. Here's just enough to keep you happy. And we hold some back. And then, so the system's intelligently doing this anyway, but it doesn't know at a mail transfer agent level how engaged your customers are, or how engaged, which of your customers have you just spoken to, which of your customers have just bought from you, which of your customers are just showing massive signs of engagement. That's the bit that we know at this level. So what we're doing is we're prioritizing on behalf of the MTAs. So when the MTA comes and knocks on the door of Microsoft and says, hey, Microsoft, I've got 5,000 people for you here. They're perfect. They're great. Microsoft's going to say, well, okay, let me just do my due diligence. It'll take them, it'll start delivering them and say, wow, this is great. Well done. Good job. And then we're going to give them the next batch and we're going to get an easier ride. So what you'll find is that the deliverability, what we found anyway, we've pushed deliverability up about 4 or 5 points, maybe up to about 30%, which is really, really powerful. So I'm really, really impressed with what we've achieved there. And I just want you to start doing it. Obviously, what we want to do next is move this into just a real, I want this as just a button to adopt this methodology so that everybody can just use it without any effort. But in the meantime, just try that approach. Copy it. If you want one of your account managers to build this for you, take us 5 minutes and then you can just duplicate it time again, change the email every time you want to send a different email, whatever you want to do. Okay, so that's about it for today, guys. So there is something new to show you, which is forms. So the dynamic form builder has now been added to the experimental accounts, where we can build forms, dynamic forms, to insert into our microsites or any way we wish, eventually when my page loads. And I want to show you that next productivity session. What we're going to do is we're going to put it out to you to think about things that you would like to talk about. So we've got lots of things that, if we don't hear anything, but every day, obviously, we're getting support requests. We're handling those. We're going to start putting those into a list, and we're going to be talking about what specifically you want to talk about. So let's see what it is next week, but I am going to be introducing the forms to you. Not next week, the week after. So thank you very much for your time, and have a great 2 weeks. All the best then. Bye bye.